I think it's very important for us to know where Confrontation came from. The sculpture has been repositioned from its previous site into this new position, and is very important in the sense that Villa always felt that his work needed to have a public position or platform. One needs to also understand, of course, where he comes from. He was born in 1915 in Bergamo in Italy. That's where he studied, and he was conscripted for the Second World War. He ended up in North Africa, and he was wounded during the conflict in 1942 and brought to South Africa as a prisoner of war. And he spent 4 years incarcerated as a prisoner of war at Zonderwater, where he produced sculpture. Once he was released, he decided to stay on in South Africa, and that created this deep commitment to being part of Africa and part of South Africa. He is one of the great chroniclers of our country, both in terms of the natural environment, but also the socio-political, emotional environment. And Confrontation is a sentinel piece related to this. It was produced in 1978, shortly after the 76 riots in Soweto. And Villa was never seen as a political artist, but he reflected clearly the ethos of what was happening around him. Confrontation talks to the interactions, the anger, the groups that moved through the streets of Soweto at that time. That moment, in many ways, was pivotal in the shift of power within this country. The sculpture is an abstraction of a group of figures, so they are anthropomorphic. It's much larger than we are, so it is monumental. And of course it has allusions to world historical sculpture. It has certain resonances with Rodin's famous Burghers of Calais, which again was a group of figures, a heroic group, but also a group with pathos. In its anger and in the angularity of its abstraction, it has many characteristics of Picasso's Guernica, also made after a tumultuous historic moment of the bombing of the town of Guernica. And that is a sentinel image in human consciousness. Villa was able to absorb from a European ancestry and his African ancestry. And we see this language emerging here. We see a series of vertical forms which lean towards each other. The top register is filled with very sharp angular forms, and there's a sense of deep dissonance in that top register, which talks to both the mental state but also an emotional state of this group. It is really a document of that moment, and one of the great sculptures to be produced in South Africa in the late 20th century.
Confrontation has been with us since the late 70s. It's a very powerful work. It's of significant historical value. It refers to the confrontation that took place in the 1970s in the country, and as such it is a national treasure. We thought you can't hide that away. You need to make that more accessible, and the Think Precinct is the ideal place to showcase it. We decided to move it right here, where not only staff can enjoy it, but also the public, and we think now it's at the right place, showcasing really what is a natural treasure to be enjoyed by all.